All right, we're gonna head on down to the feature match area and watch. We have two different Amber Steel decks versus two different Ruby Amethyst decks. So, yeah, Ruby Amethyst control. And so we're basically having what I consider to be the two best decks in the format. These Amber Steel mid-range or Stitch Blitz decks, depending on how you build them, versus the best control deck in the format, which is Amethyst and Ruby. I don't think that anyone is really shocked by the current results of the top four.
Right. It's unfortunate that we didn't get either of our more rogue decks into the semifinals here, but we should be able to watch some good Lorcana regardless.
Did you say rogue deck? I have. Last time we were here, there were two Emerald Amethyst aggro decks in top 8, and they looked good, and they still kind of look good, but they just get squashed pretty aggressively by Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. Right. I think the big thing is that Pascal is one of your better aggressive characters, and just the chain of 3-drop Tinkerbell into 4-drop Tinkerbell just eats it up and makes it just invalid.
Right. So what we really saw then was some metagame shifting after Nicholas Rausch won the last tournament with Amber Steel. We're seeing it in greater numbers here in this tournament,
right?
And that was enough to reduce the numbers of Emerald Amethyst.
All right, well, players here are resolving mulligans and will be underway here in our semifinals. This is the top 4 of the Invitational Qualifier hosted by Apex Gaming and sponsored by TCGplayer.com. Make sure to check out TCGplayer.com for all of your card gaming needs. They are the marketplace for all your singles, for basically any of the card games you want to play. All right, we're underway. No 1-drop from Powers, but we do have the best 1-drop. Lilo making a wish, going to start potentially questing for 2, and we can hopefully get something like Simba Bodyguard down to protect it. Here's a Gaston. Zach Powers with the potential nut curve of Gaston into Rafiki if he has it. This is going to be devastating for Brad Marsh and his... Oh, there it is, Rafiki off the top.
Right off the top.
What a beating!
What's that phrase we use every time? The House of Cards. It's coming tumbling down.
Yeah, I mean, Bodyguard, look, that we found it pretty early on. We were like, okay, what's the best way to protect Lilo? And it was Simba Bodyguard. And the 3 willpower made it very strong against most of your opponent's early characters. And step 2, we found Rafiki. And Rafiki was the best way to challenge Simba because it allowed all your other stuff to eat the Lilo for free. And it had Rush, so it was able to catch it from behind. So... a lot to love about Rafiki, obviously non-equable, so it has some tension there, but every time it comes down and eats Simba, it just looks so gross.
Right. Zach out to an absolutely blistering start here, has already taken care of the 2-drop from Brad without losing any resource, and now Brad's 3-drop is just going to trade for whichever of these characters Brad chooses future turn.
All right, Magic Mirror's the play. Can be inked. Not the greatest for this matchup, but might have time to deploy it later on. Marsh here is considering his options. Can't trade into anything and still Rapunzel. Can't play Grab Your Sword. Not a whole lot of great options, it doesn't look like. Can play a 2-cost Aladdin, but I think that's a pretty weak card here on this board. Right. And no ink. Ooh.
So we are actually looking pretty good here for Brad if nothing big comes down from Zach, because a Grab Your Sword next turn lets these characters continue to start questing, and then you at least have...
in order to Grab Your Sword next turn, you would have had to play ink number 4, which he didn't do.
Oh, I missed that. We missed that.
Yeah, he should have played that Rapunzel as ink. I'm sorry. That was tough. Now, Melissa's going to come down, draw a card, and I mean, Brad might just be slow rolling it or whatever, but like... it's going to take a while, and I don't think you could just rely on drawing 2 in a row. And you even get punished by drawing another Rapunzel, You could be playing Grab Your Sword and questing for 2, 4, 5 this turn, and maybe just ending the game on the spot.
Right. There's slow rolling, and then there's 2 slow rolling. I think this is the latter. But, we're still in the same position. Zach played out a character that turn that still dies to Grab Your Sword. And, but now is... 1 turn away from threatening Be Prepared, so any advantage Brad's able to create could get dashed away instantly.
We're going to just draw a card with Magic Mirror, refusing to play anything else into that Grab Your Sword, refusing to quest because we don't want to expose ourselves to some bad trades. All right, well, Brad Marsh here has grab your sword, has an inkable. Gonna ink another Rapunzel. Here it comes. Deal 2 to everything. Now we can quest for 5. If we had been able to do this last turn, this game would look a lot different. Powers would be maybe in a little bit more trouble, but now we have access to 7 ink this turn for Be Prepared.
And I think we've drawn plenty of cards to be able to have access to it right now. And Brad is going to struggle to put much more pressure onto Zach from here on out. Got some expensive cards in hand, is really only going to be able to play 1 per turn. And as soon as Zach adds a threat to the board, Brad's going to have trouble dealing with that, and Zach will turn the corner very.
All right, here comes a Goofy. Now, Brad Marsh's build, it does have the Lilo package, right? The Lilo bodyguard
Right.
to be aggressive early, but it doesn't have the Aerial Singers and the Stitch Rock Stars, I don't think, which makes them a bit weaker against Ruby Amethyst. Instead, going for that more big bodyguard curve to protect his characters with the Musketeers.
Right, exactly. And that can line up well, but Brad was, not stumbled a little, wasn't able quite enough pressure, and then the cards he was able to deploy lined up just way too well into Zach's Be Prepared. And now this bodyguard text, it could come up. It could make some Mauis slightly awkward, but the Mauis are most likely just going to take care of the bodyguards. And like I said, Zach's going to kind of run away with things as soon as he's able to get a threat down. There's the Maui.
Wish. Maui too strong.
You're welcome.
Yeah. My man Maui. A little late on this here tabard. Musketeers tabard. Not going to do a ton. We got a 6-drop Tinkerbell Giant Fairy going to deal damage to the Maui.
You might be a little scared if you're Zach here that Brad could have second Tinkerbell. It would certainly make sense.
I think he inked a big Tink instead of the Rapunzel in hand. And I think that you are right that it should have been another Tink next turn just to make sure Maui doesn't get to trade again.
Right, but instead it's a monstrous dragon. Exactly what Zach is looking for.
You're seeing how good the Ruby Amethyst deck is at playing around Rapunzel, though. Marsh, this is the second time we've watched him play against Ruby Amethyst, and we've watched the Rapunzels be put in the inkwell or just be dry and cast,
Right.
With nothing gained multiple times.
Right. And when one of your great card draw spells doesn't draw cards against the control deck, that can make the matchup pretty difficult.
Powers here are gonna play Pocket Watch before drawing a card. Can't say that I agree.
Especially
you keep picking right when I'm about to talk. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
The problem with this Discord thing, I suppose. But this might be the problem with Brad's approach as opposed to the typical Amber Steel. Maybe the Whole New Worlds and the Aerial Spectacular Singers might be a little better in the control matchup if you can line them up correctly. Instead, Brad is just kind of stuck having run into that Be Prepared and now just running out one character a turn that's not very threatening to Zach.
Yeah, I mean, these things only quest for 1, right? And with only 8 lore, Marsh is not even close to ending the game, which means Powers has access to Magic Mirror activation at least 2 or 3, maybe 5 more times before this game's over. Maybe even more than that.
Right. We've seen already several games where Ruby Amethyst gets put with its back against the wall, just a couple more lore wins, and has been able to pull out of that almost every time. And Brad isn't even close to that. So it's kind of hard to see the Ruby Amethyst deck being threatened in this game.
So we have Tabard in hand. We talked about Tabard quite a bit. Oh, here's a song we're going to sing, Grab Your Sword, and deal 2 to everything.
This
And play a
is
tabard.
a decent turn for Brad, even if I'm not a believer in the tabard. This is about the best you can do. We were able to, affect the board with a song and deploy the tabard. But
Man, you know what's funny is I'm pretty sure that one of the first games I ever saw you play of Lorcana, you had like 2 tabards in play.
and I lost.
Oh yeah, and I said,
Yeah.
"Why are you playing that 4-cost uninkable item
Yeah.
that does nothing?"
Yeah.
All right,
And
well, it's
look,
doing something here though. It's trading and
and
drawing a
look,
card.
I stopped playing it.
Yeah. Brad though is very heavy on the bodyguard mechanic. He has all the musketeers. He's got Hercules bodyguard, Simba bodyguard, tons of stuff to make the tabard better. But you got to find the right spot to get it down, and it's a bit slow sometimes. But looks like we got it down here, and it replaced itself, so no harm, no foul. But maybe the damage is done.
Absolutely. We are able to deploy a bodyguard and a Lilo this, so maybe getting into a position where we can challenge the lore totals. That looked like an Aladdin, which just lines up too well against most of these bodyguards.
All
Plus, we
right,
get to
powers
draw.
here. Yeah, I mean the if at any point Marsh decides to start questing, Pocket Watch, Pocket Watch plus Aladdin Heroic Outlaw is lights out.
Absolutely. It's just big enough to take care of most of the bodyguards except Mickey and Goofy. I'm
All right.
a little bit surprised here to see the Maleficent take down the bodyguard as opposed to the Lilo.
Back Brad Marsh's way. Feels like we're drowning. That's what it feels like to play against Ruby Amethyst. Just the slow burn, the lobster in the water, just slowly getting cooked.
Right. I suppose what Zach might have been concerned about with the Maleficent is if you leave the bodyguard in play, the Donald Duck, Brad might have been able to draw cards with a Rapunzel, and you could easily identify that as one of the ways Brad had of pulling back ahead in this game. But
All right, but
now,
now that the one creature has quested, I think we just go Aladdin, give it rush, eat the Lilo, trade 2 lore off. I think very difficult for anyone to come back from that. But it looks like we're just going to play the super safe route. We're going to sing a Be Prepared. We're going to make sure the board is as clear as possible every turn because we have such a huge resource advantage. And we're even just doing the walk the dog Aladdin here. This is Aladdin 2 of 3. One got inked, there's one in hand, and there's one in play. And at any time, we can play the one from hand with the pocket watch and chew something up.
right, I think once you get into this point in the game in Ruby Amethyst, if you're taking more cards off your opponent's board than they have in hand, it's just like an easy be prepared. You're like, I am totally fine to keep resetting the board at any amount of profit. And that's what Zach's doing.
Yep. At a certain point, raw resources for your opponent matter significantly more than you when you're this far ahead.
Exactly.
And so you just want to essentially shut off every potential avenue that your opponent could use to get back into the game. And that be prepared when he did, like maybe it seems a little overly defensive, but when you have 7 more cards in hand, being overly defensive is all you ever want to do. And I actually think Powers has played very well when we've seen him on camera. And
Right.
after, he was the first or second seed going into the top 8, he was my pick to win the whole thing. Also, his name's cool, and I just have a feeling that we're going to be saying Zach Powers at the Invitational next week.
You want to know the best game name in IndyCar? I used to watch IndyCar. There was a driver named Willpower.
Nice.
Willpower. Yeah.
It's funny. I actually went and saw a showing of Something Rotten recently, and that's one of the more famous songs from that musical. Is Will Power is talking about Will Shakespeare, and
Oh yeah.
that's a song he's singing to the crowd. It's
It's funny. Yeah, I was
yeah,
out of town. Unfortunately, wasn't able to catch that.
that's okay. You can see it next year. Just
Can
kidding. You'll never see it again. Here's
I
a
don't think that's
Goofy.
how- Goofy
Yeah.
is right.
All right, give me your best yuck.
Yuck.
That's pretty good. Hold on, let me give it. Well, gosh.
This is what Ruby Amethyst games reduce us to.
Look, we know who's won the game, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Brad Marsh doesn't know. Zach Powers knows. Zach Powers knows he's won the game.
I
We
have
know
to
he's
feel
won the
like
game.
Brad also knows.
First 20 says 0 to 10. Are you 0 to 10 in my yuck? Hold on, let me try a different one.
All right. You proposed maximum hand sizes to maybe solve this Ruby Amethyst problem. Here's my proposal. Once you hit maybe 7, maybe 8 or 9 cards in hand, you are required to reveal your hand to your opponent. That is how you get rounds to end.
I was actually considering alternate win condition of hit 20 ink.
Yeah, that could be good. I'm not totally sure we'll see rules like that from on high, but
Really?
hey, maybe some experimental tournaments are in order.
Look, I was originally wanting the Invitational to be more experimental, and they didn't give us guidelines for like a month. And then they came out with some tournament guidelines, and they're like, it should be best of 3. And I was just like, okay, great.
Fine. Yeah.
Apex says, well, wouldn't hit 20 ink be who goes first? Only in the Ruby Amethyst mirror, and only if they don't print ink destruction, which they should. Give me Stone Rain.
That would be an interesting metagame where the control decks have to play ink destruction to try to keep their opponents off.
Well, ink destruction is particularly heinous in this game. In Magic, like you can play a land destruction effect, and it like stifles a lot of their development for multiple turns.
Right.
In this game, you just hit a ink drop every turn, so it just doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It would matter if there's a win condition to hit 20 ink.
And it would also matter if it was a song.
All right. I'm not saying that we should ban a card. I don't want to get into ban discussion too much.
You said the word. You said the word, Todd. This is your fault.
But if you had to ban a card to make sure that this didn't happen, what card would you knock out? I actually kind of think it's Be Prepared.
I'm pretty sure it's Maleficent.
Really?
I think Maleficent is the card that can put you in a squeeze where if you hold back just a little bit, Maleficent puts your opponent way ahead. Did you see the hand expression from Brad there on drawing the third Musketeer's tabard?
Oh, tabards.
Oh, tabards. I think the reason they printed Be Prepared in the first set because you kind of need an effect like that.
I don't know that you do.
I could see arguments the other way. But
well, all I know is that most of the games I play of Lorcana are fun, and the ones that are not fun are the ones where I get hit with Be Prepared once or more.
Sure.
I don't know. We're just spitballing. We're just joshing. We're filling time because it takes too long for Ruby Amethyst to win the game. It's
right.
Part of the problem is just the engine.
Yeah, we did get a gift there. I believe Brad conceded before there was lethal lore in play. So that's a win in my book.
That's good. He drew the second tabard. It was the shame concede.
Yeah.
Wicked Wombat in chat says the Ruby Amethyst on Pixelborn, when I'm on Mirror, I just concede. Yeah, that's because playing one game usually takes about 45 minutes. Declee says you play IRL at all or only on Pixelborn? I play casually IRL with friends and family. I haven't played any local events yet. I just have like starter decks with like a booster box's worth of extras added to it. And but when I play on Pixelborn, I'm like hyper competitive. I love playing all the Steel Amber decks.
The only downside to conceding the mirror on Pixelborn is if you ever do go to a live tournament, I think you really need that practice if you're going to have any hope in knowing how to manipulate your brooms. I don't engage with that.
Look, I don't disagree with you, right? I think it is important to practice, But what I despise is that is a necessary kind of practice. I think that
Sure.
it's what set one of a brand new engine, and it's pretty clear that mid-range soup with all 2-for-1 draw cards or whatever is like somewhat problematic, and it's part of the way that the engine revolves around any card being inkable that matters. And so like no one ever stumbles, no one ever gets mana screwed, no one ever has to play a game from only 2 or 3 resources. They're always curving out and they're always hitting their more powerful, expensive things. And naturally, any card that says draw a card on it is just going to be really strong when the entire game's resource engine revolves around every single card in your deck being able to be a resource.
Right. I wonder if no, never mind. I'm gonna play. I'm looking. You mentioned this only being set one. I was thinking about that the other day. I have just no idea what decks are gonna look like, 2 years from now. Even if Lorcana implemented something like Magic, where you only have 2 years legal at a time, 8 sets worth of Lorcana cards. Those decks have to be wild, right? Just like the best 3 cards at any cost in their slot. I am very excited to see the future for.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I already think that Zero to Hero is potentially game breaking, and I've only cast it one time. Like I played 3 games. I drew it once, and I cast it once, and it was outrageous. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I cast it twice. That's why I think it's good. I had 2 times where I drew it, and it was not bad in either one. But it's just that type of card is just something that's going to stretch the engine. And
Right.
right now, we need things that'll stress the engine, stretch it out, because right now the pinnacle inside the engine is mid-range soup.
Right.
In Magic, you may be. I know you're aware, Matt, but those of you who are newer to Lorcana and are fans of Magic the Gathering probably know a little card called Omnath, Locus of Creation. And that thing is silly. Generates mana, generates cards, generates life, just hits on 3 different fronts.
Right.
Basically impossible to beat in a normal way. You just have to go outrageously over the top of it or completely dismantle your opponent before they play it. Or just ignore them completely and kill them with some 2 or 3 card combo. Basically
Right.
the only ways to beat it.
And we don't have any of the 3 of those in Lorcana.
Right. Except Whole New World is pretty cool. Zero to Hero is a ritual that lets you get under them, though, which I really like.
Yeah.
Rituals in Magic often, like, if you're not combo killing, if you're just ritualing into big creatures, your opponent plays some removal spell, but removal spells are expensive in this game.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the ways you can really break the parity is playing something that's worth dragon firing for way less ink than Dragonfire costs.
Yep. All right, we're underway here, and Brad Marsh has an explosive start. Turn 1, Lilo, Wishing on a Star, into 2-drop Aladdin that quests for 2. And Zach Powers needs something here to interact. Going to ink a Broom, likely going to play a 2-drop. Here is a Broom. Do we have a Bodyguard? Ooh, I see a Hercules. That's a nice one.
Yeah, Hercules lines up pretty well here. You're not quite as far behind if Zach does have a Rafiki.
Yeah, but you're still getting chewed up. Rafiki trades and then Broom eats the Lilo, and that's tough. And that's like best case scenario. God, does he have Rafiki? He does. That Rafiki on 3 is so brutal.
Right. And I think is that a Simba? Yeah, there's a Simba in Brad's hand. So this Aladdin might get in a couple more times. Zach can only have so many Rafikis. And this honestly might be a game where Brad is able to chain enough bodyguards to actually put some hurt on Zach in the early game, which he was really not able to do last.
All right, Matt, here's a simple fix. Something that millions of players already use in a different game. What do you think about chess clocks, since we're playing on our own turn only?
I mean, I think chess clocks might be fine in Lorcana. They solve some of the problems, right? But do they solve the fun problem? Like, I don't know, you're your Ruby Amethyst opponents, if you're playing a non-Ruby Amethyst deck, are just going to get better at playing their turns efficiently, and same patterns are going to happen to you. So tournaments will finish more quickly. There will be fewer draws, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, but you can't I don't know. We can't implement a rule that makes a deck stop working, right? That's not what I want to do. I don't want to change how the game operates. I just want some sort of mechanism that keeps draws from happening. And I think chess clocks are a great way to do that. Their whole design is essentially to prevent draws.
Right. I think chess clocks are a good answer for that specific problem. I think what we were talking about before is a solution for both draws and for, player enjoyment of a format. But if you decide to specifically address tournament draws or tournament runtime, then chess clock is a fine solution. I'm sure some players would be annoyed by having to use this tool that doesn't even apply to the deck they play, but you got to do what you got to do. We do see
All right.
the chain of bodyguards for Brad is holding off any damage to this Aladdin.
All right, so Broom's going to just chunk into the Hercules for 2 and come back to hand. And now that we're back in hand, we're going to play Friends on the Other Side.
Zach must have been very confident that Broom wanted to get in there because he made that play before drawing cards.
Made that play before drawing cards and had the option to double trade into the Maximus to clear.
Right.
I don't know, power. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't look that great for powers.
This Aladdin could definitely get the job done. Plus, running in that.
Is that a song? Did I miss that song? Aladdin, I'm gonna get the job done. I don't know. You get it.
I'm sure he said something to that point. Also, running in that broom, I'm not confident Zach didn't want to just take down the Hercules with the Mickey this turn. But
maybe plans changed. Maybe he thought he was going to ink the broom.
Right. Yeah. Regardless, that's a great reason to draw cards first. And Zach got basically nothing done on that turn. So
yep,
Brad
no
gets to keep putting on the pressure. We're still 2 turns away from Be Prepared. So Brad might play out one of these 2 cards in hand.
I would play at least one, and I think it's the Lilo because it quests for 2 and it's pretty scary. And then maybe you play the Goofy next turn. Maybe you just play out the Goofy because it's big. And you can play the Lilo after the Be Prepared. It just allows you to double spell, All right, back Power's way. Let's see if he's got a clear. Needs something real big here. That's Maui. He's pretty big.
I was interested in thinking about holding on to the Lilo for Prepared. But when the Ruby Amethyst deck gets past to Be Prepared, they can just start throwing down single target removal. And I think it's valid to get this Lilo down early and try to get some quests in before Zach closes any doors at all.
Yeah, Maui should still be in play with 1 willpower left. Mickey can still attack and eat the Aladdin, though. That's where we're about to be at after this broom finishes resolving. Mickey plus broom is pretty devastating when it's working.
Right. Zach was able to take advantage of that extra damage on the Hercules. And now... Oh, wow.
No shot. That's wild.
Zach Powers, the most confident Ruby Amethyst player I've ever seen.
That's the fastest. I've never. I can't imagine. I don't know.
Well, believe it or not, we have seen Ruby Amethyst win from this position before. But it's going to be tight.
It starts with a song. The song costs 7. I wonder if Powers has ink totals wrong. I wonder if that's anything. Maybe not.
Lore
All right, it's
totals, you mean?
gotta. Yeah, lore totals. It's fine. Here's a be prepared. We're gonna quest for 2 first. There we go. Don't miss it. Bang. Okay, now you gotta kill every single character your opponent plays for the rest of the game. There's Lefa.
That's a
LeFou.
character. That's a character.
That.
Gotta kill it.
Yep. I'm a character. Gotta kill me. Here's 8.
Or is it Elsa?
Gotta freeze me. Okay. Your turn. And now we don't have the Aladdin to gain 2 next turn necessarily. Oh, no character drawn here. Just
No, it's a Mickey.
Oh, so Mickey, I thought that was a grab your sword. Okay, all right. We're still in business. Dragonfire?
You want to know what I was fully expecting to see off the top for Brad there?
Hmm.
Musketeers to Bard.
That would have been funny. I bet he would have just walked out. He would have just
Yeah,
left.
right.
I'm out of here. All right. Elsa can
All right,
eat up
Zach.
the LeFou. We can also sing Be Prepared, if that's in our hand. I think it is. Yep. Singing it up. Now, Brad Marsh has no characters in hand. Let's see if Powers has a way, at the very least, to shrink Marsh down back to 18 or even 17 lore with one of the 3-drop Aladdins, maybe.
You just have to put Be Prepared back in here, right?
Elsa 8's pretty good too, since you have some board presence.
That's true.
They're pretty similar, but I think Elsa is slightly better on the current board.
Right.
All right, Marsh, what you got? Character? Yes, Simba. Unexerted. Threatens lethal. Let's find the answer. Zach Powers needs it right now. That's the Dragonfire. We're getting there. No, it's a Tibbs. Uh-oh.
Oh.
2, 3, 4,
Do we-
up to 6.
Do we have another Be Prepared? Yep.
You got to feel good if you're Marsh. Your opponent just like sweeps their own board just to get you with the Be Prepared. All
Bam.
right. Dragonfire off the top.
Oh my god.
Bang. I know. That's how it goes. Tibbs. Here's Tinkerbell. Come on, top deck. Finally.
Tinkerbell, Tiny Tactician. We're going to game 3.
All right. Game number 3. That was a nail biter. I do say so myself. And you have to think back to the turn where we sung Friends on the Other Side instead of challenging the quest for 2 Aladdin. And that's the one that put him all the way up to 19 lore, which made answering every single character a must.
Right. And if that Aladdin had been killed, you know, on Brad's side, he does have a lot of those 2 lore characters, particularly the cheap ones, but with all those bodyguards, he also has plenty 1 lore characters. So I think his pressure would have been pretty anemic if Zach had been able to survive just. But being put all the way up to 19 lore meant that literally any character was a threat. And that's what got Brad over the finish line.
All right, players, as they're shuffling up here for game number 3, I want to take a moment to shout out our sponsors. Thank you so much to G Fuel Energy Formula for keeping us energized on these long tournament days. Wings Etc. Grill and Pub for keeping us fed and happy after a long day's work. Shout out to Ultimate Guard. They're awesome products. Make sure our players' cards can be protected from Boulder deck boxes to Katana sleeves and the Archive deck box to hold your Cube or Commander decks. Make sure to check out all your Ultimate Guard products at your local game store. And if your local game store doesn't have Ultimate Guard products, well, tell them you want them.
I know our players are going to be looking forward to some Wings Etc. whether they win or lose top 8.
All right, both players here shuffling after their mulligan. I brought this up 2 weeks ago. And I want to hear your honest to God thoughts, and I want to hear Chad's thoughts too. How into shuffling after mulliganing are you? Or would you be okay just putting them on the bottom?
I think I'm happy with shuffling after mulliganing. it's a little annoying, but I think it's kind of a necessary flaw or a necessary downside or something. It would just change your mulligan decisions so much, I think, if you had like only a couple copies of a character. Like I think this would be really important matchup. I don't know. I think in card games you got to keep hope alive, and that's what shuffling does.
I guess I play a lot of Magic, and the way you mulligan in Magic is to put cards on the bottom after you mulligan, and it feels fine. You don't have to shuffle an extra time. I think that the extra shuffle is superfluous, and I've played many other games where you mulligan the exact same way, but you just don't shuffle.
Sure.
I don't know.
One thing I think is weird is that there is exactly one card in the first set that shuffles your deck in the middle of the game in a room. I honestly thought it's so close to being a decide decision.
I thought there
What's the
was
second
two.
one?
Is it just Broom? I thought there was some bad item that did it.
Regardless, I fully expected there to be just none in the first set, like shuffling in the game is not a thing. But then there's this broom. And then of course the broom gets played in every control deck. All right, we're underway. Let's talk about the game.
All right, we got Lilo into Simba Bodyguard. Powers matches with the Tibbs to play defense. Can't get through the bodyguards though, so Brad Marsh going to be questing here pretty aggressively. And Powers here going to be looking for an answer to these bodyguards. Might not have one just yet. Is on the play, so we'll have Maui potentially next turn, but right now we're just on 4.
We did see for the first time this match, Zach did not have Rafiki on turn. And once you
Guess
missed
what?
that first one,
Dead.
House of Cards.
Dead.
The House of Cards is standing. And we're going to start by drawing cards. But even at this point, if Zach does find a Rafiki, the rest of his characters are too small to get past the other bodyguard. So this Lilo is going to get 4, maybe 6 more lore in this game.
All right, we're going to take one lore away, play Baby Aladdin. 2/2 body, not that scary, but the shift 5 next turn is...
Ooh. Now, is this the spot to jam the Tabard?
If you don't play Tabard on this board,
It should be in your deck.
It should not be in your deck.
Yeah.
Great curve here from March with the 1/2/3. 2 bodyguards to protect the Lilo. Tabard here does punish if anything comes after the bodyguards. That's all you really want. You just want punishes. Now, one thing he can do instead of the Tabard is we can go Hercules into the Maleficent and then use Rapunzel to heal it. I think that that's reasonable.
Right. If we don't play the Tabard this turn, I don't know. See, the problem with not playing Tabard this turn is that Zach is about to hit Maui. So your bodyguards could all be off the board if you don't play the Tabard this turn, and then it's just no the game. But Brad is going to risk that and instead deploying more lore to the battlefield.
All right, that's fine. We get the Rapunzel down. We got the 1/2/3/4 max punish for using friends on the other side. And now we're going to go back Powers' way. Has access to Maui, 5 ink. If he has Outlaw here, he can shift that and attack and steal 2 lore. It feels a little too early for the Outlaw because it's going to get challenged back pretty easily. And usually you want to have it threaten multiple turns running. And Maui does a very similar job here.
Right. But you notice because that first bodyguard, because Rafiki never entered the equation, Zach is forced to trade 2 characters into one bodyguard.
Yeah.
And this Lilo gets to keep going. But of course now Tabard totally useless. Maybe has not stood the test. Now, do you play out both of these Lilos and try to max punish? Or instead, we're just going to trade this Maximus for this Maui?
Well, or do you play Tabard? Or do you play Tabard? It's never in the equation.
Yeah.
Tabard's never in the equation. Get it out the deck. That's what I say. We got Maximus going down, trading, and another Maui comes down. Is going to eat the Rapunzel.
I wonder if this might have been a mistake for Zach. Instead of playing the second Maui to take care of the Maximus, And
This
then the
lore total
existing one,
cannot be right, right? I feel like 7 is way too low. I feel like we're at least 11 now.
I agree.
That's up to 13 now? Okay. We're getting that updated. Cool. Sorry. Finish your thought.
There was a line where Zach could have had 2 Mauis, both with damage on them at this point in the game, but elected to just trade one of them off with the Maximus instead. And maybe got rewarded for it, as Brad does have one of the couple of grab your sword that are in his deck. That would have been able to take care of that extra Maui.
It also leaves it not vulnerable to Smash, which is another good card to play here. So I actually like that play from Zach. I probably would have gone the other way and just got chewed up by Grab Your Sword because it would have made both of them lose it.
All right, there's the tabard.
Right on time.
And we are now in the be prepared zone for Zach. Probably not playing it this turn if he even has one.
Yes, the classic tabard after all the bodyguards are dead. Apex Gaming, that's true. Here's a 5-cost Dragonfire on a 1-cost Lilo, and this is very similar to what we were talking about last game, where it's more about making sure your opponent has no avenue to victory, even if it looks like a bad trade.
Right, and we also might be seeing Zach thinking about the previous game, chose not to kill a 2-lore character and got punished for it. Maybe prioritizing taking lore off the board a little more this game.
All right, run them down. Eat your Donald draw card. All right, tabard did something. We
Tabard
did
count
it.
is at 1.
We're in game 3 here of the semifinals. The winner will go on to the finals and play for a shot at the Invitational next week. Here's Tinkerbell Giant Fairy going to eat the Maui. Going to go back. Elsa can challenge this Lilo and keep Brad Marsh on a low 13 lore.
Let's make sure we get that 1 damage on the Elsa. Could have our director check that out.
That's true. Yeah, let's make sure we get 1 damage on the Elsa real quick, if we don't mind. We're going to play another Elsa and it's going to freeze them. So we're doing the racing thing.
There we go.
It's a big deal. It matters.
It does. Damage in this game really matters. Things end up adding up, every game. And characters die from accumulating all that damage. Tabard, back online. We got a bodyguard.
All right. Well, here it is. Maleficent Monstrous Dragon just going to kill Tinkerbell. And we're going to ignore? No, we're going to challenge both. Chew them up. Did we draw a card off of the tabard? How do missed triggers work in this game?
I thought we did. I don't know.
Maybe we did. I'm sorry.
Didn't register to me as missed.
Brad Marsh, gonna play Grab Your Sword, deal 2 to everything. Doesn't quite finish off any of the characters in play. Maybe looking to play another one on the next turn and clear up most of it. But still not gonna completely get the job done on either side. Here's Quest for 3, 6, 8. Powers up to 11 now, at least.
We haven't really seen a game like this out of Ruby Amethyst so far, but they do have these draws where they just run out a couple Elsas and the clock becomes extreme. But then the double Grab Your Sword is able to take care of that.
Isn't Maleficent Monstrous Dragon a 5 toughness?
Yes.
Shouldn't it be alive?
Maybe this is our fault for telling our players to play fast. So let's get that Maleficent back into play.
All right, it's gone now. We're just going to keep playing. Here's another bodyguard. Here's a tabard. I'm not going to babysit everybody. I'm trying my best.
Yeah. There's clarifying maybe. But this game's kind of close. Zach doesn't have any card advantage engines to play, but both players have lore in play, and Brad does have those tabards.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna quest for 4. We're in a racing scenario. If we challenge the Simba, it's gonna put us in a spot where the tabard gets to draw 2 cards. So it seems like the best way to victory here is to ignore. We're at 17. Oh, we're gonna Rafiki it down instead. That is gonna draw 2 cards for Brad. Might find an answer to what he has in play, but Power's at 17.
This is
I mean, that's a
yeah,
big
it's
Tinkerbell. That's a clear or semi-clear. We can kill the Rafiki
everything
straight
but
up.
Goofy.
Yeah.
And we might no, we don't quite have enough to play anything in addition to the Tinkerbell, I don't think. And having to lose this LeFou to the Mickey does hurt, but it's necessary. Looks like a Captain Hook forceful duelist that Brad might run out here.
All right, not
But
threatening lethal next turn though. So got to find a way to kill this Goofy. It needs to be smash or something similar. Here's another Goofy. I don't think there's a way out.
wow.
Yeah, no kidding.
So game 3, very different from most of the Ruby Amethyst games we've seen so far. Maybe only one Be Prepared in this game, maybe none. But one thing's for sure, Tabard did not win the game for Brad.
No, I think maybe if he played on 4 instead of the Rapunzel, we're in a much better spot at the stage
Right.
in the game. But as it stands, I think it's just a little too much for Marsh to deal with. Powers there navigated that game well, aside from a
Right.
few missteps, though. I think things could have maybe gone differently for Brad.